2026 is not a lucky year. It's a necessary one. Most people don't understand what that means. They wait for luck to improve their lives. They wait for things to get easier. They wait for signs that everything will work out. But astrology doesn't work that way. Some years are not meant to reward you. They are meant to correct your direction. And 2026 is one of those years. Astrologically, necessary years feel different even before they begin. People become restless. Not dramatic. Not emotional. Just quietly dissatisfied. Something feels off. You may feel it in your career. In your relationships. Or simply in the way your life no longer excites you the way it used to. This is not anxiety. This is transition. It happens when an old cycle is closing. But the new one hasn't fully formed yet. Lucky years give you more. More opportunities. More recognition. More external rewards. Necessary years take something away. They remove paths that no longer lead anywhere. They weaken structures built on fear or comfort. They expose illusions you've been living inside of. Not to punish you, but to prepare you. 2026 is not here to destroy your life. It's here to remove what no longer fits the person you are becoming. This is why 2026 feels heavy to some people. Not because it is cruel, but because it is honest. It does not support shortcuts. It does not reward avoidance. It does not protect fragile structures. It asks for responsibility, clarity, long-term decisions. Anything built only to keep things comfortable will start to feel exhausting. For many people, 2026 challenges three main areas of life: career, relationships, identity. In your career, you may realize that stability without growth is not stability at all. Jobs chosen for safety instead of purpose begin to feel empty. Not suddenly, but gradually. You wake up tired, unmotivated, disconnected. That's not failure. That's information. In relationships, 2026 reveals emotional truth. Connections based on habit start to feel hollow. Relationships maintained out of fear of being alone lose their warmth. This does not always mean breakups. But it does mean honesty. Some relationships evolve. Others quietly end. What matters is not what stays. What matters is what feels real. And then there is identity. The roles you've been playing. The version of yourself you present to the world. In 2026, anything that isn't authentic becomes difficult to maintain. Pretending becomes tiring. Performing becomes draining. You may feel the urge to simplify your life. To strip it down to what actually matters. This is not regression. This is alignment. Necessary years don't rush you. They wait. They repeat the lesson. Until you are ready to listen. This is why some people say 2026 was the hardest year of their life. And others say it saved them. The difference is not luck. The difference is honesty. People who resist change experience pressure. They try to hold things together that are already falling apart. They negotiate with truth. They delay decisions. They hope things will return to how they used to be. But necessary years never move backward. They move you forward. Whether you cooperate or not. For others, 2026 becomes a turning point. Not because life becomes easier, but because it becomes clearer. They stop avoiding discomfort. They stop explaining away dissatisfaction. They stop settling. They make decisions that feel heavy at first, but light later. They choose responsibility over comfort. Meaning over approval. Truth over illusion. And slowly, life begins to make sense again. To work with 2026 instead of fighting it, you need to ask yourself some uncomfortable questions. What am I holding on to? Only because it feels familiar? Where am I calling stagnation? Stability? What truth keeps repeating in my life that I keep ignoring? These questions are not meant to scare you. They are meant to free you. Necessary years do not destroy lives. They remove distractions. They remove illusions. So real life can begin. They take away what delays growth. So what matters can finally breathe. And what remains becomes stronger. 2026 is not here to make you lucky. It's here to make you ready. Ready for the next version of your life. Ready for responsibility. Ready for clarity. And what survives 2026 was meant to stay. If this message resonates, your zodiac sign will feel this year very deeply. 2026 does not arrive gently. It arrives honestly. This is not a year that adds more to your life. It is a year that removes what no longer belongs there. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. But clearly. Every necessary year has one purpose: to take away what keeps you stuck. So growth becomes unavoidable. And in 2026, that removal happens in very specific ways. Not randomly. Not unfairly. But precisely where you've stopped evolving. The first area 2026 begins to strip down is career. Not work itself, but the reasons behind why you do it. Careers built on fear of instability begin to feel unstable anyway. Jobs chosen only for safety start draining your energy. Not because the job is bad, but because you've outgrown it. In 2026, many people realize they are no longer challenged. They are simply busy. Busy repeating the same routines. Busy maintaining a role that once made sense. Busy protecting a version of themselves that no longer fits. This year exposes the difference between productivity and purpose. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. For some, this looks like burnout. For others, it looks like boredom. And for a few, it feels like quiet panic. But all of it carries the same message. Something must change. 2026 does not force you to quit overnight. It does something more uncomfortable. It makes staying feel heavier than leaving. And that is how necessary years work. The second area 2026 begins to remove from your life is relationships. Not love, but emotional dishonesty. Relationships held together by routine begin to feel empty. Connections based on fear of loneliness lose their warmth. You may still care. You may still try. But something feels missing. This year exposes emotional shortcuts. Avoiding difficult conversations. Ignoring resentment. Pretending things are fine when they are not. In 2026, those strategies stop working. Not because the relationship is doomed, but because truth is required. Some relationships evolve through honesty. Others end quietly. Once illusion is removed, what matters is not the outcome. What matters is authenticity. 2026 does not take love away. It removes false connection. So real connection can exist. And then there is the third area. The deepest one. Identity. In 2026, you may feel tired of pretending. Tired of explaining yourself. Tired of maintaining an image. Tired of being the person others expect you to be. This is not a crisis. It is clarity. Necessary years remove identities. Built to survive, not to thrive. The roles you adopted to be accepted. The masks you wore to stay safe. The version of yourself that worked in the past, but no longer works now. This can feel unsettling. You may not know who you are becoming yet. You may feel temporarily undefined. But this space is intentional. Before alignment, there is emptiness. Before truth, there is silence. 2026 is not interested in who you used to be. It responds only to who you are becoming. And anything that blocks that process slowly loses its grip on your life. This is why necessary years feel personal. They don't attack everything at once. They target what matters most to you. Career. Love. Identity. Not to break you, but to rebuild you from the inside out. People often ask, why necessary years feel so exhausting? The answer is simple. Letting go requires more energy than holding on. At least at first. But once release happens, relief follows. Those who fight the process experience loss. Those who cooperate with it experience freedom. The difference is not strength. It is willingness. If you feel things slipping away in 2026, pause before you panic. Ask yourself what these things were costing you. Energy. Authenticity. Growth. Sometimes what leaves your life was never meant to stay. 2026 does not empty your life. It clears it. So what remains can finally matter. And what stays after this year is not accidental. It is aligned. If this message resonates, your zodiac sign will feel these changes very personally. And this is only the beginning of what 2026 reveals. 2026 does not affect everyone the same way. Some people feel overwhelmed. Others feel awakened. Some struggle. Others quietly rise. The year itself does not choose sides. Your response does. Necessary years reveal patterns. Not once. Not suddenly. But repeatedly. They show you the same situation. Until you understand what it is asking from you. In 2026, those patterns become impossible to ignore. People who break in necessary years are not weak. They are tired of resisting. They spend energy holding together lives that are already misaligned. They explain away discomfort. They delay decisions. They wait for circumstances to change. But 2026 does not negotiate. This year applies pressure slowly. It doesn't collapse your life overnight. It squeezes. Day by day. Choice by choice. Until something gives. For some, that breaking point feels like failure. But it isn't. It's clarity arriving without permission. People who rise in 2026 are not fearless. They are honest. They listen when something feels wrong. They act before crisis forces them to. They don't wait for certainty. They move with intention. And that makes all the difference. Rising in a necessary year does not look impressive at first. It looks quiet. Private decisions. Uncomfortable conversations. Long-term choices without applause. But those choices compound. And by the end of the year, they change everything. The core difference between breaking and rising is not external success. It is internal alignment. When your actions match your values, pressure becomes direction. When they don't, pressure becomes pain. In 2026, You cannot avoid responsibility. You can only choose how consciously you accept it. Those who take responsibility early experience relief. Those who delay it experience repetition. Many people try to escape necessary years by distracting themselves. Busyness, entertainment, overthinking. But 2026 removes distractions. It creates silence. And in that silence, truth becomes loud. This is why some people feel lost in 2026. They are no longer distracted from themselves. They finally hear what they've been avoiding. And that can feel frightening. Until it becomes freeing. Rising in 2026 requires one skill above all. Self-honesty. Not brutal self-criticism. Not perfection. Just honesty. Admitting when something no longer works. Admitting when you've outgrown a situation. Admitting when fear is making decisions for you. Necessary years do not reward confidence. They reward clarity. They don't ask you to know everything. They ask you to stop lying to yourself. For those who rise, 2026 becomes a foundation year. Not flashy. Not dramatic. But solid. They build structures that last beyond this year. Careers aligned with purpose. Relationships built on truth. Identities rooted in authenticity. For those who break, the story does not end in 2026. Breaking is not the opposite of rising. It is often the beginning of it. But resistance makes it harder than it needs to be. 2026 teaches one central lesson. Growth cannot be postponed. It can only be faced. And those who face it consciously emerge stronger. This year does not create winners and losers. It reveals who is willing to grow and who is not ready yet. If you feel pressure in 2026, do not ask why it is happening to you. Ask what it is preparing you for. The answer will guide you forward. Many people describe 2026 as a year of confusion. Not chaos. Not disaster. But disorientation. A feeling of being lost. Without knowing exactly why. This feeling is not random. It has a psychological purpose. Necessary years do not attack your external life first. They work on your inner structure. They loosen certainty. They weaken old beliefs. They question familiar narratives. Until what once felt stable no longer does. In 2026, many people realize that answers they relied on no longer work. The goals they chased no longer motivate them. The identity they built no longer explains who they are. This creates psychological pressure. Not because something is wrong, but because something is changing. The mind seeks clarity. Necessary years delay it. They keep you in a space of not knowing long enough for truth to surface. This is uncomfortable. But it is intentional. Psychologically, 2026 challenges your need for control. Plans feel uncertain. Timelines dissolve. Certainty disappears. You may feel anxious. Not because danger is present, but because certainty is absent. This is why many people feel mentally exhausted in 2026. They are not doing more. They are thinking more. Trying to predict. Trying to plan. Trying to force clarity. But clarity in necessary years arrives through acceptance, not control. Feeling lost in 2026 is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that old mental maps no longer apply. Before a new direction appears, the old one must disappear. Psychological pressure intensifies. When you resist this process. When you demand answers too quickly. When you rush decisions. When you escape discomfort. But the pressure eases. When you allow uncertainty to exist. This year teaches emotional maturity. The ability to sit with discomfort. Without needing immediate resolution. The ability to observe emotions. Without being ruled by them. The ability to listen. Instead of react. Many people misunderstand psychological pressure. They think it means something is wrong. In necessary years. It often means something is right. It means growth is happening internally. Before it becomes visible externally. This is why 2026 feels slow for some people. Not because nothing is happening. But because the work is internal. And internal shifts take time. Psychologically. 2026 is not asking you to know your future. It is asking you to stop forcing it. It is asking you to trust process. Over prediction. Presence over control. Those who fight uncertainty. Experience anxiety. Those who accept it. Experience insight. The year does not change. Your relationship with it does. Mental clarity in 2026 comes from simplifying. Reducing mental noise. Letting go of unnecessary expectations. Releasing timelines that no longer fit. Not everything needs an answer right now. This is a year to listen. To patterns. To repeated emotions. To inner resistance. Your mind is not confused. It is reorganizing. Psychological pressure peaks. Just before breakthrough. This is why many people look back at necessary years. And say they finally understood themselves. Not during the year. But because of it. If you feel lost in 2026. Do not rush to find yourself. Let yourself change first. Clarity will follow. This year does not ask you to have a plan. It asks you to have honesty. And that is enough. By now. You understand one thing clearly. 2026 is not a year to escape. It is a year to work with. Most suffering in necessary years comes from resistance. Trying to force outcomes. Trying to keep things the same. Trying to avoid discomfort. But 2026 does not respond to force. It responds to alignment. Working with 2026 does not mean dramatic action. It means conscious action. Small decisions made honestly matter more than big gestures made impulsively. The first way to work with 2026 is to slow down your reactions. Necessary years test impulse. They expose emotional decisions made out of fear. Before acting. This year asks you to pause internally. Not to overthink. But to listen. If something feels heavy, do not immediately remove it. Ask why it feels heavy. If something feels empty, do not immediately replace it. Ask what it was meant to teach you. The second way to work with 2026 is to choose responsibility over comfort. Comfort keeps things familiar. Responsibility creates growth. This does not mean suffering. It means maturity. Doing what aligns long term. Instead of what soothes short term. In careers. This may mean investing in skills. Instead of chasing titles. In relationships. This may mean honest conversations. Instead of silent tolerance. In identity. This may mean letting go of labels. Instead of defending them. The third way to work with 2026 is to release timelines. Necessary years disrupt schedules. They ignore deadlines you set for yourself. Not to delay you, but to redirect you. Progress in 2026 is measured by clarity. not speed. Many people make the mistake of judging 2026 while they are still inside it. Necessary years make sense only in hindsight. Trust that what feels slow now is building something stable. The fourth way to work with 2026 is to simplify. Too many commitments create noise. Too many expectations create pressure. This year rewards reduction. Fewer goals. Clearer priorities. Deeper focus. When life feels heavy, it is often overloaded. 2026 teaches you what you no longer need to carry. The final way to work with 2026 is to accept uncertainty without fear. Uncertainty is not danger. It is openness. It creates space for something new to emerge. You are not meant to have everything figured out this year. You are meant to become more honest with yourself, with others, with your direction. When you stop fighting 2026, something changes. Pressure turns into guidance. Confusion turns into insight. Loss turns into alignment. This year does not promise comfort. It promises truth. And truth creates strength. By the end of 2026, you may not recognize your life, but you will recognize yourself. More grounded. More clear. More real. What survives this year was never fragile. What leaves was already complete. 2026 is not the end of something. It is the foundation of what comes next. And how you work with it determines what you build.